All right, guys, and welcome back. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Now we're going to look how to set up our own hedge fund in the decentralized financial ecosystem. And we talked about what is a hedge fund. We talked about interest rate swaps, and we also had an expert on board to explain us more in depth about these concepts. I'm not a centralized financial expert. I'm a developer and I studied economics and computer science. That's why also Andrew helps me with explaining a deeper side of like the more traditional financial markets. Now, actually, let's take a look how we can set up a hedge fund. How can we set up a hedge fund in the decentralized markets? Well, Melonport is a pretty old project in the crypto space. It's as an open source protocol and an on-chain asset management protocol. It's a blockchain software that seeks to enable participants to set up, manage, and invest in technology regulated and operated funds in a way that reduces the barriers to entry and minimizes the requirements of trust. The Melon protocol is a set of rules implemented the behavior of investment funds as a system of smart contracts. These rules are meant to protect the investor and the fund manager for behavior that they do wrong, even though both parties in theory remain unknown to each other. It's a decentralized hedge fund. And as you know, I also worked for a hedge fund before in Amsterdam in the Netherlands. I was a hedge fund manager at a crypto hedge fund, and I was doing the cybersecurity and I was helping them with their investment strategies. And there we actually had quite a good profit, but it was always quite hard. We had around 150, like 200 investors, and every week you need to create a net asset under value statement, and you have to have like entries, exits, time series, carry over fees as people exit. Well, all those metrics are all taken care of by the Melonport decentralized protocol. So, yeah, how do they how does this exactly work, right? Let's take a look before we dive deeper into the technicals and how they make money. Let's go to the website. So if you go to melonprotocol.com, you can see that it's the infrastructure management for asset management 3.0. That's pretty cool. And I also think the project it's an old project. Yeah, they did an ICO, but they kind of kept on going, even though they didn't even raise much funds, and they keep on going, building. They add new things, and they actually recently upgraded their protocol so that the UI is a little bit more easy to understand. Where at first it was like really complex to understand. There were too many steps, and now if you look at their protocol right now, it's a much more easy to understand protocol. So let's take a look, right? So if I'm a investor, I can here manage my funds. I manage my fund share. So I'm an investor. I invested 1 ETH in my fund, and I can see here my different account balances. And if I then want to invest in other funds, I can just go to the terminal, and I can see here, I can inspect, and I can look, and I can see which funds are actually performing pretty good. So here we have Rose Gold. That is a daily change of 43%, and as a assets under management, yeah, still very small. So this is all again similar to how we what happens more in with a lot of these DeFi protocols. A lot of the protocols still need our attention. They still need more and more people to understand the protocols, start to interact with the protocols. A big barrier for entry right now, in my opinion, is the high gas fee still, and it's a barrier also because it's still a little bit hard to understand. But that's why today we're going more in depth over this protocol. As you can see here, there's different funds. I can select a fund now. Let's look this fund. This looks interesting. I can click on it. I can see different assets that they have under management. They have quite of a diversified asset portfolio, and they're actively managing it. You can see here the fund manager address, when it's started. It's pretty recently. It's active. The amount of money it's under management. Management fee is quite reasonable. And yeah, all that is displayed in this graph right here. Okay, so that's interesting. These are the benchmarks, so we can remove a benchmark, add a different benchmark if we want to, and then we can see how does this perform and how does this stack up. Okay, nice. And we can actually also, if we want to, we can also start our own fund, and that's what I did. I started my own fund, my own DeFi. I started my own DeFi fund, and it's a really interesting. It's a really interesting process. So you can see here, I started my own fund on DeFi, protocol version. I created my fund address. I injected it with 1 ETH to see what's happening. I've not been actively promoting it. I set up all the metrics, and yeah, so you can set up your own fund. You can understand, and mostly this is really interesting to understand all the capabilities and possibilities that we have in the decentralized financial ecosystem. We can become our own hedge fund, which is amazing. It's an amazing thing that we can do that. All right, so this is my own fund, and if I now invest and redeem, I can redeem tokens, or I can invest more ETH if I want to, and I can show my skills and my performance on the Melon protocol and gain traction by doing so. All right, so yeah, so we just saw how Melon works in general. As you can see here in the protocol, every time that I do a trade, basically the underlying Melon protocol gains value. All right. So Melon is an interesting protocol to follow, and it's also cool to see that we can launch our own hedge fund. So we can basically be our own bank, and we can be our own hedge fund, and we can manage our own money, and we can make our own yields. In my view, Melon is a very interesting case study to see, hey, what can I use from them, and how can I do this better? I think that their token model doesn't make any sense, and I think they shouldn't have introduced that token. I think that slowed them down a little bit. Although the way how they did it, that the gas that's used and a percentage of that gas goes into the Melonport protocol is visionary. It's very interesting, and I think this could be used, but I would say don't make it into a token model itself, but maybe have like fees distributed in the native tokens. That makes much more sense, and it's much more easy to implement because of this extra addition of tokens. I think they had a lot of technical issues to overcome in their protocol. So here is an image of their old protocol that they used, and yeah, let's see, it's a bit less friendly, and you can see that this is less friendly than the newer upgraded version that they used now. So goals for the future, built on the Melon stack. So they have this cool protocol stack, and they're actually making a game that investors can speculate and bet against each other, and you can invest in different investors. It looks a bit similar to the SET protocol, but it's more next level. So they want to attract more of the high net worth individuals and the more professional investors into their protocol. Okay. And there is also, besides the hedge funds that we mentioned, of course, there's also CeFi options, more centralized financial options where you can basically be your own manager. But then this is more like that you're not the funds that you control for your investors and for yourself is basically in the Prime XBTC portal, which I wouldn't trust, and I would recommend you guys going for more self-sovereign financial identity instead of going for a central point where you have to deposit your funds. I wouldn't definitely do that. I would prefer Melonport over something like Prime XBTC. All right, now we're going to look at BToken, but we're going to do that in the next video. I see you in the next video. Thank you guys, and I will look more at BToken.